you guys in radio, you're in the original entertainment industry. By that I mean the voice and the story told around a campfire. There's no, stunts and stuff like that. It's an original story. The great storytellers like Arch Oboler and Norman Corwin knew how to do what they called, and I know you know the phrase, theater of the mind. And that's the greatest theater of all. So you guys are recreating the theater of the mind. I've done a lot of it. I wish you well. It's a great skill and a great art.
Reps, what a pleasure to wish you a happy 30th birthday. Just amazing. And I'm so glad you're doing this, because the radio programming of the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s was so important in my life.
My name is Mike Sprague, and I'm with the radio enthusiasts of Puget Sound, and some of you have had a chance to talk with. If you don't know, this is a group that's got about, maybe this is our 4th meeting, and so if you're here for the first time, you're not left out of a whole lot. Probably our most exciting event to date, without much question. I'd say if anybody wants to sit on this table over here, it's sturdy. Feel free to rent us, clean it up for us, and just squeeze in wherever you can, up front on the floor. But we're really glad you're here. Later on, if for those who are interested, we'll spend a little time talking about the club. That's not why most of you are here. So we're going to get on with the program and save that for later on for those who might be interested. You clapped when I introduced John Archer. If I had introduced Ralph Bowman, a former exterminator and aerial photographer, would you have clapped as much? Yes. Some of you know it, okay. That'll come into the story as we go along. John's done so much more than the shadow, of course. That's appealing and interesting to us who are sort of radio fanatics.
Mr. Beals.
I never met him, never worked with him, but he was responsible for some very serious injury to me and to Dick Crenna. I didn't know it at the time, but when I was having my appendix out on January 2, 1957, Dick Crenna was in the same hospital in the next OR having his appendix taken out.
And neither of you knew that, right?
And neither of us knew it. And then...
Reiner knew it.
But it was later in April that I was doing a Jack Johnstone Hollywood Star Theater or something like that. I forget what we called it. And Dick was at the table explaining all about his appendicitis operation. And then I realized who the noisy one was in the recovery room. He was screaming and yelling. It was Dick Crenna. But we were both at the same time watching an Our Miss Brooks television show. And it came to that famous radio show and television show where Gail Gordon has the line, "Tether your elephants." Well, I'd remembered the show, and I didn't do it, but Dick did. And I started laughing so hard that I started popping stitches. And I didn't know it, but Dick was in the net. I was in 837, he was in 839. He had the same show on. He was laughing so hard he couldn't stop, and he popped some of his stitches. The doctor goes in and sews him back up, and then comes in and sews me back up. That's my only connection with Gail Gordon.
You could say Gail had him in stitches, then, right? Yeah. Cheap shot.
Hey, Gil.
Now, you know, The thing that nobody has mentioned about Gale, and probably one of his best-known roles in radio, was his Mayor Trivia on Fibber McGee and Molly.
Yeah.
And when I worked that show, I always was amazed. The only two people that I ever worked with in radio who could make silence work for them better was Gale Gordon and Jack Benny. And I mean, after Mayor Trivia would have that huge blow-up, and the audience would laugh, and if one person would laugh, Gale would wait and wait until it got absolutely quiet, and then he'd go, McGee. Yeah.
That's good.
And the other thing, that I worked with him on Junior Miss. I played the boyfriend of the girl, and he was the father. And he had one of the great line readings of all time. Myra Marsh played Hilda the maid, and as only Gale could do it, he said, Hilda, and she comes out and she said, yes, Mr. Graves, what is it? He says, the eggs, they are loose.
That's good.
I remember doing that first show like it was yesterday. I can tell you what Ginny Gregg was wearing and what Bill Conrad was wearing. It was so exciting. But I don't remember doing it live. I've said in my book it was taped for the first time. But let's settle it right now.
Let's ask Larry.
I know that the audition was taped, and we repeated the script, but I think we repeated it live. This was
Because
before.
I only remember doing it once, Harry. I remember going in May 15th, not April 24th.
Oh, we're back there again.
I'm a hard loser.
Don't start with me, Dick.
Damn it.
Dick, when you awake,
Maybe it was
You'll
May
remember.
15th in your book, but you should have wound it. 20, I'll give in to Larry and to John. It was the
But
26th.
I only did it once, and
Now you know why.
I would like to say one thing about the show that we did tonight. I don't know whether you were conscious of it, aside from the fact that Miss Kitty wasn't in it, the character hadn't been invented yet. But the whole style of this script is totally different from what it became, say, 6 months to a year later, as it began to evolve. First of all, I think we have 40 pages of script here, and in later years, 20 pages would probably do it, because that was usually, but Parley was making extra noises. But
With his mouth.
I just made a mistake.
You had the colossal gall to come up to me after dinner and said, what was that snide remark supposed to make? I rest my case.
oh, he's right, though. They were 20 to 24, 25 pages.
By that time, we'd all learned to read pauses.
Say, I have-
Howard McNair, bless his heart, took a lot of time up by saying,
Herb, you all knew Bill Conrad better than I did. I worked with him for many years, but I didn't know him like you did. I think they would be interested in describe Bill Conrad.
Yeah.
Whenever you went to lunch with him, you took a whip and a chair. That says it all, doesn't it, Harry? He's the greatest guy who ever lived, and I think one of the finest actors America has ever produced. Indeed. He had accomplished the ability to act with reserve. By that I mean, he never had to give everything he had. If he got mad, you felt that he could still go another 50%. If he was happy, which was rare, then he could still go that. But I think he's been amazing. He's overcome a great many handicaps physically. He used to get mad at us because he wasn't 6'4" and a leading man, but that wasn't our fault. That was in God's hands. So he did the second best. But I think he is one of the finest actors America has ever produced. And I cannot contain my admiration for Bill Conrad. A lovely, lovely human being.
On April 29, 1932, the first chapter of One Man's Family opened with this announcement. One Man's Family is dedicated to the mothers and fathers of the younger generation and to their bewildering offspring. This is neither an expose of youth's foibles nor an accusation against the older generation. It is merely a cross-section of the life of a modern family, given with the hope of explaining father to son and son to father. Controversial subjects are dealt with from each individual character's point of view and have no further purpose than to explain certain given types of personalities which have developed in the last few years. Every man with a growing family these days has problems no other father in history has had to face. Today's visit with One Man's Family in 1998 continues Carlton E. Morse's original dedication to the mothers and fathers of the younger generation and to their bewildering offspring. But this visit is also dedicated to the memory of Carlton E. Morse and to the tens of millions of Americans who believe, as he did, that the American family is the cornerstone of our democracy.
Else up here who has a connection with Phil Harris, Alice Faye in any respect. Let's hit that just briefly, would you mind?
Sure.
Yeah, just your life on that show, what it was like for you, highlights, lowlights.
Well, it was entirely different from One Man's Family.
It's one other guy's family, yeah.
Yeah. I had started doing One Man's Family and had been on there as a regular running role for a year when I got the part on the Phil Harris Show, which was a comedy, and One Man's Family was a kind of a family saga, mostly dramatic. And Mr. Morse didn't really want me to do both at the same time. It was both a conflict thing and a focus thing, and I think he just really wanted his people, his actors, to be more exclusive to the family. So I kind of dropped away from the family for the 7 years I was working on the Harris Show. But the Harris Show was a lot of fun. It had a live orchestra, and there was music on every show. That was very different, real entertaining studio audience. Janine, who played my sister, and I always dressed in alike outfits that were usually custom made because we always seemed to be wearing different range of sizes, so they had to be custom made. And it was very festive. And at the end of each of the years, went on for 6-7 years, they would take us back east, and we would do one show in Chicago and 1 or 2 shows in New York, and we went to the Truman inauguration and just got to tour all the historic and wonderful sites and Broadway shows, and it was really, it was pretty exciting.
One of my favorite scenes from Leave It to Beaver was in an early one where June says, "Boys, go up and get ready, get cleaned up for dinner." And so we said, "Okay." So we go up, and like a well-oiled machine, we walk into the bathroom, we get the towels, we get the things, we kneel down by the tub, and it's got water in it, and we dampen up the towels a little bit so they're a little bit wet, and we take the washcloths and we do this. And we're doing a scene. That was just the business behind it. And then at the very end, Wally reaches into Beaver's jacket pocket, I think, and throws a handful of dirt in and says, "It'll leave a ring."
Talk about stuff that happened on the set that's funny, that you can remember. Like, I know you told us in an interview once about the horse. Do you remember that?
Oh, the horse.
Tell that story.
Oh, okay, well, we, I can't remember the show exactly, but the show was that we had a horse in the garage. And the horse was supposed to lay down. And that, that's a special horse. You gotta pay an extra couple bucks for a horse that'll lay down. So anyway, they paid the extra bucks, and the horse is standing there, and it gets ready to also have the horse lay down, and the horse won't lay down. Doesn't want to lay down. And so the trainer says, "Well, everybody just go away for 10 minutes or so. I'll get him to lay down." We come back, the horse is still standing up. And so finally they decide, well, what they're going to do, and I don't particularly agree with this because I'm an animal person, but they gave him a tranquilizer shot in the butt, and he still didn't go down. And so they decided, well, we better give him another one. So they gave him another one. And all of a sudden his eyes rolled back in his head, and he sort of listed to one side, and then he just sort of staggered, and he ran into the set. And those sets aren't built very well, you know, they're just a big flat with a couple of braces behind them. Knocked that down, and ended up on top of the wall. So now we had to get the horse back into the middle of the thing to shoot it. And the director said, all right, look, you guys drag the horse back, you put the wall back, and we'll go shoot another scene in the living room. Well, we were in the living room, and all we can hear is so that was it for the day. We couldn't move the horse, couldn't wake it up, couldn't